Hi, welcome to Garden Glow Up. I realized recently that I had some chores to do around the pond. I decided to make it a video so that I could show you what I've learned, what went right when I set up the pond, so that if you ever decide to do one, you can benefit from all of these lessons. Today, I think I'm going to cut back these vines which are overgrowing the pond. Then I'm going to take all the plants out so that I can also take out all of the water. And the reason I'm going to take out all the water is because these plants have fallen in because I didn't set them up properly. And when they fell in, a lot of the dirt from the pots clouded the water. So what that means is I can't see the fish that are in there and thriving, which I would like to be able to see. So I'm going to start doing those chores and show you how I do them so that you can see what this pond could look like. Clean out the water. What I'm going to do is I have 3 buckets set up, and I'm going to use one bucket to take water out. I'm going to use another bucket to collect the water, and I have a net where I can get the fish. I also have one bucket set up with clean water so that I can put the fish into some clean water. It's been sitting out for a few days, so all of the chemicals have hopefully evaporated and it's a good environment for the fish. So after having done all of that, we can put things back in and see. I'm going to cut back the plants just to make them look a little bit cleaner. Not all of them. I'm going to take out these plants. So I'm going to take out everything that's in a pot. I'm going to cut back this papyrus. I love it, but it's just looking a little bit overgrown and messy, and so I'm going to cut it back and just set it up so that it looks a little bit cleaner. I'm also going to take out the water lilies. They're going to stay in the pond, but for right now, in terms of doing the chores, I need to take out all these plants first so that I can clean out the water. Now, when I clean out the water, what I'm going to do is I have 3 buckets set up, and I'm going to use one bucket to take water out. I'm going to use another bucket to collect the water, and I have a net where I can get the fish. I also have one bucket set up with clean water so that I can put the fish into some clean water. It's been sitting out for a few days, so all of the chemicals have hopefully evaporated and it's a good environment for the fish. So after having done all of that, we can put things back in and see how they look. Okay, so I just tried to take out the plants one by one and they came out as one huge clump. So I think what I'm going to have to do is do it with my hands later. But look, that second bucket got knocked over by the wind, but the point is I didn't even need it. It's all in one bucket because it came out as one giant clump. So now I think I'm going to leave that for now. They'll be fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using this bucket setup that I have over here to take the water out of this and start taking the fish out. So I just did 1 bucket worth of water, and already you can see the fish are there and doing just fine. So I'm gonna attempt, I have to be careful because obviously I have my camera and this is a ton of water. So let's collect some water so I can show you how this goes. So you just put the bucket in, take the water out, and let's just hang out for a second so you can see that we can't see any fish there. You saw that fish exist, but obviously in this water we don't see any fish. So let's come and just pour it gently into the net. Pour it gently into the net. I'm not sure I'll be able to get this on camera, so hopefully it films, but if it doesn't, you'll see the process. Okay, so just poured all the water into there. There's the net. You just go like this. And there, look, the fish are coming out. So that's all you have to do to clean out your pond. Okay, so there, done. Now we just have to do this until the pond is empty. And this water can be used to water your plants. So don't throw that out. That's good water. Just water it around the garden. And you can use that to establish plants. Whichever plant needs a little help, this is good water for them. Okay, So I've done it. Here's the empty pond. There are the buckets with the cold water. Here is the bucket with the fish. I can see how dark it is, but the water actually looks very clear. What's in there are plants, and I have, oh, there, with the light, maybe now you can see it. And there are about 10 fish in there, which is still more than we bought. Okay, so that's what the pond looks like with the bricks in it. So those are good enough that if I want to put a pot with a plant in it right there, I'll have some ledge to be able to do that. But a note, when you start filling this up with water, this is going to be very heavy because of the bricks in it. So what I would recommend is start filling it up with water. You should have leveled it beforehand, but if when you start filling it up with water, you see that the water isn't level, you want to sort that out and figure out the level for it before you finish filling it up, because at that point, just the pond, just the liner full of water would be too heavy to move. Now add in the bricks and that's just, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. So don't let it get to that point. Fill it up to about here, fill it up to about the top of the first brick, and if you see at that point that it isn't level, even it out. Okay, so I have reintroduced what I think is called duckweed and the water lilies, and I'm gonna start putting in plants to the pond. So let's start with the papyrus, which I think will go great just there. And I will probably cut back the ones that are leaning. One of the things I've noticed, I didn't put back all the water lilies. I've left some in the bucket. And by the way, I did have to clean the water lilies in order to put them back in the pond because they were quite muddy, and I just cleaned everything out, and I didn't want the plants themselves introducing more muck into the pond. So I cleaned them out before putting them back in. So here's one of the other plants I plan on putting in the pond. It was in the pond before and I'm going to put it back in. But one of the things I learned was that when you put these plants in, they are not that stable. They're in a pond, there's a lot of water, things move around. On windy days, wind happens. So I do like the ceramic pots in terms of keeping the plants stable. They deal with the water well. I think they're very pretty. But one of the things you want to do is make sure that at the top you have rocks covering the plant so that if it does fall, I would hope that depending on how it falls, that the rocks, or if it rains a lot and the water covers the plant, that at least the rocks keep the soil in the pot to the best of its abilities. So let's go ahead and put that. That's gorgeous. Let's put this in. Right there. Beautiful. I think maybe facing out rather than in. And then we also have this iris, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Just gonna fill the top. So here I had a rock to literally hold it down, but it doesn't need a rock. It just needs these little And in terms of design, this is beautiful. So I'm going to put this here because I think it actually needs a lot more sun than it was getting. So let's look at what the pond looks like now, just after we've done a little bit of work to it. So here is what the pond looks like now. And there's Chance behind enjoying it. Hi, so I'm gonna sit here with the pond. Can you see me? Yeah. So the pond's right there. And basically, so when we initially set it up, what we did was I went to a fish nursery. So the way there are plant nurseries, there are fish nurseries. And I told them, listen, I'm setting up this pond outside, and whatever fish go in there have to be totally self-sustaining. And they were like, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know, this is what I think it means. I told them I'm going to put plants in this pond. I'm going to put water in this pond. There is no mechanism attached to this pond, so nothing pumping in oxygen or anything like that. And whatever I put in there has to be okay with surviving under those conditions. So I'm not going to feed it. I'm not going to oxygenate it. It just has to be fine this way. And they were like, here, let me make sure this is right. So they were like, okay, what they told me I could put in here are guppies and mollies, which is what are in here. That's what I saved today. And they have done just fine. Some of them have done better than others. It's the little red ones. Don't know what they're called, so I'm so sorry about that. They're either guppies or mollies. But basically, this has done super well. The fish love it, and they just procreate. We have more fish than we bought. The birds love it. So lately I've seen like sometimes there's 10 birds taking a bath in here at the same time, just hanging around the pond, and it's so nice to look on, and the kids love it. So let me give you a few like ideas about the liner and what you could do. So I'm in Florida, so I didn't put my pond in the ground. There's somebody back there. Because Chance was not going to stand for that. I didn't put my pond in the ground because that means I would have had to have dug a hole that big into the limestone, and I just didn't want to do that amount of work. The other thing you could do is you could stack up rocks around it. But that's just basically to hide the liner. One of the reasons I didn't want to do that was because basically who sits here are my children, and the bricks just scratched them up, so I didn't really want to put bricks around here. But originally that was my idea. I also thought of bromeliads because like this area is nice and shady, and bromeliads do so well in the shade. But then what ended up happening, well, one, bromeliads are very pinchy, or at least can be. And then the idea with the rocks didn't pan out. You can paint the lining, which I don't want to do. The black is fine because what I want is to plant flowers around it. So I've already planted some and they are doing just fine. The other thing I'm doing is as I go around and deadhead flowers in the garden, as my flowers self-seed in other places, I take the seedlings and I've been bringing them over here to just see like what takes off. Like, I don't mind planting up around it, but I would prefer if like something just, one of the flowers that I have, if it just finds a spot and kind of takes over, then that's what I'm looking for. And I think that against the black lining will be just fine. So later today, I will put the fish in here. I'll probably record that on my iPhone, but I'll do my best to include that in the video so that you can see like the kids and how excited they get when they can see the fish. But otherwise, this is what it looks like. So right now the water lilies are still settling, and you can't really force that. I just put them back in there and they will sink to the bottom when they're ready. And all the other plants that I put in there are in their pots and doing just fine. So the last thing I have to do, I'm lying, is I do have to treat it. So when I told the people at the fish nursery what I wanted to do, they told me to, they gave me a product and they were like, this takes the chlorine out of the water, so make sure to do that. I've heard that if you just leave the water out standing, you hear all the birds? They know the pond's here, they like to come. But if you just leave like the water standing for a few hours or for a few days, the chlorine is supposed to evaporate. So I'm going to go ahead, and since I have the product, I'm going to put it in so that when I do put the fish back in, they're nice and comfortable. And that's how you do it. So if you want to create a self-sustaining pond or have done it and have any tips for me, go ahead, post comments below and let us know. I hope you like it, guys. Bye.
Wow, there's a lot way more than I thought. Let's take a video. Mm-hmm. Can you take a video?
There's one.
Mm-hmm. There, did you see it?
Yeah.
Look at all the ones that are about to come.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.